So we're going to talk a little bit about competition. And part of this, when I mentioned value proposition, is this. When you think about your products and the customers that you'll serve, and I say products, I should say products and services, right? You guys know that products are things that you can touch and feel, like the honey. Services are also things that you can sell. Services are things like if you go to a restaurant and you receive service. Services are things, so the patisserie, the hair salon, the person that works on your car, these are all services. Why do I mention the difference in the two? Because the majority of a country's, or globally, let's say, the majority of revenue now comes from services. Products are very important, but just know that you can be successful selling services, and they can be services that we sell to customers. I just mentioned a few of those: get your hair cut, go out and eat some food, or they may be services you provide to other businesses. We'll ask you a little bit about both of those: to customers, B2C, or to businesses, B2B. But you've got to have something different. So we want you to think about, with your offering, which means for your product or services, what is your unique positioning? Okay, I'm bringing this back. I think Farzine showed you this. I bring this back only to say that this is where customers come in. And just think in the back of your mind when you need to get customers and what type of customers you are seeking. All right, because this changes over time. When you first start a company, you're a startup, you're looking for innovators. You're looking for those potential customers that will take a risk on something new, something different, whatever it is that you're offering. Those are going to be the people that say, I'll go ahead and I'll try it before anybody else says that. Also know that once you've got a way to reach those early innovators, you now start to go, okay, I've secured some customers. I now want to go and start figuring out the big piece of the pie. And that really are the early adopters and the early majority. Okay. Those are people that they've heard about you. They've seen that other people have tried your product or service, and they start to now want to try you as well. And eventually in your company, you look for the late majority, you look for the laggards. I mention all of this to you just as you think about customers and where you can get customers from. Which ones are you who are you going to start to target? Right now, you want to think about those people that would take early advantage of your product. Those are the innovators. Hey, I'm willing to take a risk. Those are the early adopters as well. Okay, somebody else has taken the risk. It looks like it's working out okay for them. I'm going to go ahead and take the risk now too. Hey, how many of you guys, when you have software updates, do you do immediately the software update? I do. I'm like, oh, new operating system. I'm an Apple person, new operating system. Yeah, yeah, go ahead and install it. I'm an innovator, right? I'll just try it, no problems. One of my friends says, no, 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 I'm going to wait. I'm going to sit back for a couple of months. I'm going to see if anybody else has any problems, and then I'll go ahead and update the software. He probably would be an early adopter. Maybe he'd be an early majority person. So think about that. All right. What's the risk that you have? Today, we're going to talk about a competitor analysis. What's the risk of not doing a good job of knowing who your competitors are? The risk is really this: if you focus just on your product or your service, you don't think about what other people are offering, then you have a problem that you have no idea what the rest of the potential market is doing. So I'm going to say this to you. If you have an idea, all of you in the room have startups, I bet other people are thinking of that idea. I bet there are alternatives to what you offer right now. And if that's the case, and it is for everybody, if that's the case, then you've got to think about what are your competitors offering. And if it's not a direct competitor, we'll speak about what those are. What can people use instead of your product or service? So if you're selling coffee, well, could somebody pick up a mug of tea and drink tea instead? That would be a substitute for you. So we've got to think of this job about knowing as much as we can about the competitors that exist within the market. So I was very early in the market with my software. I did medical technology software. I did scheduling. You can think about it if you use Expedia, Travelocity, any of those websites that allow you to schedule airline travel. We did the same thing for hospitals. But even though I was early, one of the first in the market, I still had several competitors. And I wanted to know everything I could know about them because I wanted to adopt and develop what my value proposition was. All right, I have a question for you, and I'm going to ask my colleagues in the room to kind of read off the answers. Here's the question. How do you choose the brand of your computer technology? How do you choose the brand of, let's say, your laptop? Let me know. What are the things you look, how you make the decision? Put those in the chat box. Whatever the answer is, let's read off some of the answers. So how would you decide to buy one brand over the other? How do you choose your laptop? What do you think? So do we have any answers in our chat box to that?
Yes, we do. Do you want me to read them to you, David?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Riyadh says the specs of the laptop.
Okay, specs.
Says asking tech friends.
What was that one?
Asking tech friends.
Okay, okay.
That are more into tech, maybe.
Okay.
Nargis says true reviews.
Okay, through reviews. Okay.
Ahmed believes we should also be looking for reviews on YouTube, maybe.
Okay. Okay, so we have
and people's advices.
People's advice. Okay, people's advice. Now, what's interesting here is that, okay, so if we're thinking about how we're choosing this brand of laptop, you guys have mentioned technical specifications. You've mentioned asking other people, really, you know, ask tech friends, go look at reviews, which we go look at online, asking other people maybe for what their advice is on how they choose a laptop or a brand. We have, this is how, let me go back one. This is how I chose Apple. Maybe. Okay, I was a Dell computer user. Had a Dell laptop, it worked great. I was at home one day, this is probably, what is that, 15 years ago. I watched a commercial on TV and I had to have a laptop from Apple. I so much needed one. I went to my wife and I said, you know, I think I'm going to go out today. I just saw this commercial. I have to have this laptop. And she said, why? Your Dell works great. And I said, well, I don't know. Because this laptop came out of this envelope. It slid out of an envelope. It looked really cool. But David, doesn't your Dell laptop work just fine? Yeah, but that's irrelevant. I think I really need this laptop. No kidding. The next day, my Dell laptop died. I kid you not, my Dell laptop stopped working. I went to my wife and I said, honey, I love you very much. I'm going to go buy that Apple laptop now. My Dell laptop just died. She said, what did you do? Hit it with a hammer? And I said, I swear, no, look, it just died. I went out and bought the first generation of MacBook Air. And ever since then, I've been using Apple products, MacBook Airs and things like that. Let me ask you, did you see in this commercial technical specifications? Matter of fact, did you see anything at all where it said anything about this laptop? I saw one thing. Would you agree with me? It said it's the thinnest laptop available. Other than that, were there any technical specifications that you saw? I would say to you, no, no technical specifications at all. Why is that? Well, think of this. What makes people buy? Okay, people may buy because of technical specifications, but I'm going to offer you something here called design. And I say design is everywhere. It's a way of making your product different, and it's a way to create a new market. So can you capture attention by using this thing called design? What is it? It's a combination of two things. The first thing, you guys were all right. Many of you talked about specifications. Maybe you asked other technical friends for what do they think. And that's what we call utility, which means the product has to work. And if you think about it, there are a number of companies that compete against Apple that will sell you on specifications. Our laptop is better than an Apple. Our phone, Samsung says, has better camera technology than what Apple has. That's all ease of use called utility. The product has to work. I made an assumption that the laptop would work from Apple, but significance is something for you to think about as you start your companies and you work on your ideas. What does that mean? It means it's more than technical specs. It means it's what appeals to your potential customer. What gives them a feeling that they're part of you? What ties into their emotions that makes them say, oh, wait a minute, I have to have that. And if you think about this, what separates companies in a market that has a lot of competition in it, and I'm going to offer you to this concept of design, and that design means your product has to work, but you emotionally connect some way with the customer. And I should put this number up, but it's somewhere around 90% now of decisions are made because of emotional reasons. These are consumer products because there's an emotional reason. People expect the technical specs will be there, but it's some way that it appeals to you. And if you guys have ever seen Apple products, you'll take your phone out of the box and go, ooh, slides out of the box. Notice people copy that now. You get a Samsung phone, any other brand, ooh, it looks really nice. Why are they doing that? They're trying to connect with you on an emotional level. I say this, look at this. This was the holiday ad from Apple. You see any technical specs anywhere in here? The answer is no. It's all about color. It's about emotion. It's about tying you into their products and services. So I want you to think design, and I think design is a great way of separating yourself from everybody else. There are large companies that use design specifically as a competitive advantage.
She said it's expensive.
Okay, now in this case, what's your competitive advantage? We want you to start thinking with your companies about your competitive advantage. And, you know, there's a statement, it's usually a trade-off between quality and price. The more value that you can offer is at a higher price. If you have lower value, then it's at a lower price. You can use technology as a differentiator. You can use where people can find your product as a differentiator. Okay, so maybe I can go to, I was over the weekend looking for a water filter, a Brita water filter. And I didn't really care if it was Brita or not. I just wanted the water filter. But of course, I found that Brita was at a lot of different places. I could go find it at many locations, okay? So their distribution channel for their products are better than what their competitors were. We may want to tie in the users. It may be customer service that we're tying into, where we use that as a competitive advantage. And I think we have, if there's somebody that we can mute, maybe get some help from my colleagues to mute the person in the background. Okay, so we've got the ability here of thinking about competitive advantages based upon the technical specs. Yes, maybe we have something better. Where our products are found, can you buy them on the internet? Are there multiple locations you can purchase? How about if we appeal to one group of people over the other, this access to a community? We can have users speaking on our behalf. We maybe have influencers. We can use our great customer service. You called my software company, somebody picked up the phone, a live person, and answered it. We could immediately answer your question, immediately give you help. We did that because our competitors were very large, multi-billion-dollar US per year companies, and you got the answering machine, right? Or you got the answering system. Press 1 if you want to be connected here. This was a difference for us. Your people can be a competitive advantage for you. We call these tangible and sort of intangible assets. Tangible things are technology, where people find you. Intangible assets are things like end users. They are customer service that you offer is better than what somebody else offers. And I think this is a big differentiator. If you can give better customer service than your competitor, this can differentiate you and a reason why customers want to come back to you. Okay, competitors. Now, you're going to start thinking about who are your competitors. I want you to think about your competitors, that not all of them are what we call direct competitors. Direct competitors are people that are selling a product just like you that are in your market. So I mentioned earlier coffee. If you have somebody as a coffee shop here in Rabat, we may have, I look at all my competitors and maybe Starbucks is one of them. Did you know there's a company called Star Cups? Not Starbucks, Star Cups. So there's Star Cups, anybody else who's selling. But how about people that don't sell coffee, but they're an indirect competitor, maybe somebody who uses a substitute product like this tea. So maybe something like this tea. Okay, so you've got to start thinking about what are the things that you may have in common and with your competitors. How do you stack up to them? How do you rate compared to them with what your product or service is? And it can be on a number of things. Again, the scope of what you guys offer. And it can be, you can start thinking of characteristics, by the way, of what is the product or service diversity in the area. Do I think that I want to look at people that sell coffee as well as people that sell tea? Because my particular target market will drink both. Do I want to just be located in a certain geographic location? So am I planning on selling only in Casablanca versus some other region within Morocco? Or no, maybe all throughout Morocco, I've got to look at all of Morocco. We can think about branding and marketing and quality that people have, leadership people have, the size of their company. I'm a small company. This is a really large company. Does that give them a competitive advantage or not? And we start to put together in our mind what we call critical success factors. Okay, these are things out of all the lists that you would make of things that are valued by your customers, things that you think would your customers would say, yes, I really want that. What are the ones that are most valuable? Or in our case, the ones that are most critical. And as we start putting this picture together of our competitive advantage, we know that the things that are critical to your customers, critical success factors for your customers, they're going to be part of our competitive advantage statement. And we're going to want to try to build an organization that delivers critical success factors to customers. Because if you don't, you notice this last sentence, you're at a disadvantage. Somebody else will offer these where you don't. Again, what does your customer want? Remember, it's all about what problems are customers having. How can you solve their problem? Fit. What is the fit for their problem with your solution that's going to make their life easier, make their life better? And what are those things that customers say are critical to them for them to be attached to you, your product or service versus somebody else? Here's an example. It's a little blurry here for you, right? But here's an example of several different companies, and it gives you an example of what was being offered. And we put together a list here of, okay, what are the things we really want to have in this software? And this is accounting software. We've got invoicing, inventory, cash flow, payroll, right? We've got some intangible things about easy implementation. This is a Tunisian example for you guys. But can we use this in Tunisia? Can we use this in Morocco? Finally, what's the price? And we're putting these together of these critical success factors as we're looking at products. And do we have here a clear winner? Here we have, I'd suggest to you that Swiver is the clear winner, at least in this analysis that we're doing. So really what we're doing is we're trying to develop benchmarks against others. And we're trying to learn as much as we can about the competition that exists out in the field. And we're trying to identify all of the competition, get as much information as we can about them, as many as you may have heard before, data points, as many data points about them, so we can know what their models are like, what their business is like, what advantages they may have over us, so we can craft out our unique position. I get back to the honey. Remember with, oh, here we go. Remember with the honey. I can buy 100 different brands of honey, at least particularly here and in the US. Why did we buy this particular honey? And what unique competitive advantage did it have? It had where it came from, it had the different varieties of it, and it had an emotional story. If you read the story that comes with this, and it talks to you about the small beekeepers that are making this honey, it gets to be a very interesting story with a very unique positioning, I think you could say, for that particular honey maker. So you want to identify all the competition as much as you can. You can go to Google, you can look on Google, you can talk to experts that are in the field. You want to know your competitors well. You can look at them on their websites, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. You can interview customers that they may have had, or maybe they're putting customer reviews up online. You can then take all of it, even become their customer, we say on here. Find out what their service is like, what the product's like. If you're going to start a restaurant, for example, go eat at that restaurant. See what it's really like. Hang out, see when they're busy, not busy. Detect as much as you can about their business as possible, because all of that information is better for you. It's better for you in the long run. There's more that you know. You take this information, look at the ones that are the critical success factors, and you illustrate them on a chart. Okay? And you do this often because things change. Your competition today and what their critical success factors are as they stack up to you or as they're measured against you, they'll change over time, because remember, companies change. So we're going to want you ultimately to chart out your own competitive position. All right, so I have an exercise here for you guys. And we just want to talk about this, okay? We're going to talk about this all together in one group. And then soon we're going to break up into our individual companies and go talk about our own, what we think our own competitive advantages may be, or what our success factors would be. But in this case, you're launching a transportation company, okay? How would you position your company against the competitors? Help me. I want to be a transportation company. I'm going to haul stuff back and forth through Morocco. What are some of the critical success factors that I may look at? So help me in the chat box. Give me some things that you think would be of success, critical success to potential customers. And I'll ask my colleagues to help me with this, that as your answers come in, unless I can do this some way. I was going to say share it. Oh, okay, I can go
I can read them.
Yeah, cool, man. I've actually figured out how to go into the chat box here, right? Okay, so
Okay, great.
okay, so we've got some answers on here where we're talking about availability of their transports and quality of their services. Okay, so it may be availability to use their service. When you pick up the phone and call them, they are available, they can get to you. It could be the quality. Do they do a good job of picking up your goods and a good job of delivering those? We have comfort, we have time, we have pricing, we have customer resource management. Did somebody say here emotions, or was that on the computer before? And if you did
that was about the computer
before, okay, purely for me it was an emotional response, right? I've got to have that MacBook Air. In this case, we've got customer service, pricing, time probably for the delivery, comfort maybe of the service. Now if it's transportation of people, that could be comfort of the service, availability of transfers, and quality of the services. So we are starting to map out what we feel are the success factors for this particular company. You guys are going to do the same for yourself. And we're going to ask you, how do you chart out your competitive position? Well, here's how you do it. We talk about it being simple, then we give you a number of steps that seem complicated. They're really not. You develop a chart. It has an x-axis on it. It has a y-axis on it. And on the x-axis, you're putting your priority, the number one priority of what you guys think your customers have as their must-have critical success factor. And on the half, close to the x-axis, you write in there, it could be bad state, it could be low. In this case, let's say if it's transportation, reliability was one of those things. Maybe it is low reliability, then it is high reliability. Now on the other axis, the one going, so we have good on the good part. So the x-axis has two portions on it, two boxes. It has low and high, and we chose reliability as the x-axis. On the y-axis, we may place our number two priority, okay? And on that one, we may place on there whatever we're using as low and high or good or bad on that, okay? Then you plot your company on it, on the axis. This is a blurry model here, but here's a model of, we have two customer most critical success factors. One was efficiency. The other was reliability. And reliability dealt with a battery or no battery in it. Efficiency was low efficiency, high efficiency. So based upon these two factors, you plot out where different companies are in terms of low or high efficiency, low or high reliability, and you start getting a good picture of what your competitive advantage may be over your competitors. Okay, so over your competitors. So here's what we want to do. We want to take about 10 minutes. We want to go into breakout rooms for your individual companies. And we want you to start thinking about, what do you think that customers most value, would consider was most critical for them with your product or service? And we want you to pick the top, out of the ones you come up with, the top two of those, which is number one, which is number two. And what ultimately you would do with this is you would plot yourself on a chart as you gather the competition information. You put your competitors on that chart as well. Tell me again why you think we're doing this. Why would we do this? Let me put that in the chat box. Why do you think? And if you don't know why, say, hey, David, I have no idea why I do this, except you're going to make me do it in a minute. So the question here is, why would you do a competitive positioning of your company versus other companies? And at least from my chat box, don't see a lot of activity in there. But go ahead. Yeah, you can put in the chat box your answer. If you want to just unmic yourself, let us know who you are, unmic yourself. That's cool too.
Yeah, sure. So I am Sarah Latif, and I think why I would do market analysis, or like you said, know my competitors, it is so that I would know like what I can offer that is different, if that is an option. Otherwise, like for example, if I'm going to offer the same service, I have to put in something different. So I can, know how to, of course, market it to my user.
Okay, so you want to know what is going to be unique at the end of this. What is everybody else doing, and how you can develop a unique position? I think that's what you're saying, right?
True, yes.
Yeah, okay, and I fully agree with that. I think it is about the unique competitive advantage you're trying to develop. We say on here, what's your value proposition? Yeah, where do you have the most value to a customer? You need to add, you've got to make sure that the things that are of most significance to your customer that you're offering, and then what is your unique positioning? Where do you stack up? All right, so do we have our break rooms available?
Yes, we do.
Yes, okay. So we want to go by company. We want to drop into break rooms. We want to take no more than 10 minutes to do this. Well, how are we doing on time? How much time do we have? I don't know, is Elena with us here, or is anybody keeping time for us?
Yes, sure, I can do.
How much time do we have
We
available?
have, I think we have till 2. Let me check quickly to not say anything. So we have till 10, till 3:10.
3:10.
Okay, so we have 20 minutes still, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into our breakout rooms. Let's go by company. Those of you that haven't attached yet to a company, what do we want to do with those folks? Let them invite to whatever, we're assigning them or letting them go into a break room.
Great.
I'm sorry, is the
Okay.
answer is we'll give them a message and that you've already pre-assigned them?
It's as you like. I can pre-assign them, or I can let them tell me to which company they want to be assigned.
Okay, hey, solo talents that still haven't attached, why don't you pick which company you'd like to go hang out with? Because this may be an opportunity for you to become attached.
Yes.
So let's open up the breakout rooms. We're going to go in for about 10 minutes, and we want you guys to have the conversation about what your
مروة
positioning would be.
نقص شوية عافاك.
Okay, so we'll then go around, and those of us on OST will go around and listen into and give you some feedback.
Great.
Thank you. See you in 10 minutes.
Great. 10 minutes.
Like you do, they can be indirect competitors. They offer something that is an alternative, some other way of doing business, okay? So you've got to think about that. And then you think also about, I got to ask a question about products and services. Should we be thinking about our company and thinking about both products and services that we
ولا
make?
صفات ولا صفات شو تكون صفات.
And the answer for products and services will be yes, that you think about everything that you may be offering. And a company may offer both products and services. So for example, if you're Spotter, Spotter may offer a product that does, we'll just say electronic banking option. And then they may offer some service. There may be something with consulting that Spotter offers as well, coming in to help its banking customers or helping its business customers with what we would call revenue enhancement, getting money in better and quicker. Okay, so it can be both. All right, so Umaima, are we taking a couple-minute break and then we're coming back and talking revenue model?
That's exactly the plan. So, Laina, are we having a 10 minutes break? You're on mute.
Sorry. Yes, let's go ahead with 10-minute break and we come back then at 3:25.
All right,
Okay, great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Startup Morocco or not, you as an entrepreneur need to understand where money can come from. What are the different channels of where you would get money in? So of course, money that you take in, we would call that revenue. We would call that maybe sales that you would make as well. So let me share my screen with you and then Alpha will go for a few minutes about revenue model. And let me know when you see this. So Lena or Umaima, can you see my screen? Yeah, okay.
Yes, we do.
All right, good deal. All right, so revenue model. The big question is, what is a revenue model, right? So we're going to answer that today for you guys. And a revenue model. This is the way that your company envisions and how it will charge for whatever you're selling. That could be a product or service. And of course, we want to know the different streams of revenue that you may have that you'll use to ultimately make money and at the end of it all generate what we call a profit. Profit, of course, when you look at that, profit will be the amount of money that you make above and beyond what you spend. There are some other terms I mentioned earlier, cash flow. I think the important thing, if you guys want to read up on this and you're starting your own company, is how to determine what a cash flow forecast, how much money is required to operate your business until you start making more money than you spend. And for me, the motto should be cash is king. So if I had a t-shirt on now, it would say cash is king. That just means that you've got to be really good at predicting what your needs are. And then you have to make sure that you have enough cash money on hand to cover what those needs will be. And I got to tell you, most entrepreneurs don't do a great job of knowing how much money they'll collect and when. They're very optimistic. And then two, knowing how much that they will spend. And both of those equal success. So the first part of this is the revenue model. I can tell you my story. I almost ran out of money with my company because I didn't do a great job of projecting when I would get money in from customers. It took me about twice as long as what I thought to sell a product to hospital. I was learning this as an experience. I had to go back to my investors and beg for more money. So my $8.5 million US per year company almost went out of business after 12 months because I was getting very low on the amount of money I had on hand to pay our expenses. On this side, let's think about the revenue model. Now, you may hear some different terms. You may hear revenue model versus business model versus revenue streams. They're all three different things, okay? You may hear business model canvas. That is what you guys are working on in terms of this project. We have over the overall business model canvas, you guys are focusing in on the right-hand side. You've seen it in Farzine's presentation. I think Ivy also shared it within her presentation as well. But this business model, it's a picture of how you're going to operate your company. The overall picture of operating your company, what your customers need, Okay, what needs you'll be addressing for those customers, and then ultimately, what are your products or services that you offer? Those that have a value proposition to your customer. That's the overall picture. The revenue model looks at when do you think you're going to get money? What are the different places you can get money from? And then what, for you to get that money, what resources do you need to have in place so you can be successful in attracting and getting that money? Now, when I said attracting and getting that money, those are the different revenue streams. Revenue streams they go into the revenue model, but they're each an independent source of money. So they're a different source of money that you may get from your customers. It could be one, there's only one source of money that maybe you get. It may be more than that. You may sell in your company a product and offer a service, a product and a service. Those could be two revenue streams. Within the products that you offer, maybe you offer several different products. Those could each be their own individual revenue stream. There are other revenue streams that always occur within a company. We're going to share a few of those with you now. So revenue models. One potential stream of money is what we call revenue, a recurring revenue. Now, before I mention recurring revenue, let's go back to when you start your company and you're selling a product, and the first day you open up the doors. I always say, envision your company, turn on the light switch. And when you open up the doors, you can imagine a customer coming in and purchasing the product. This is a sale. You make a sale, and it may be a patisserie that you're selling. You may be cutting somebody's hair, right? That's a sale that you've made. Most businesses understand pretty quickly this concept of recurring revenue and how recurring revenue can really drive your business. This is money that you gather every specific period of time. It may be every month you're charging somebody money. It may be every year you're charging something for use of a product or a service. I'm a member of a US sports forum. I just got my bill for them for my yearly charge that they charge me to be a member of this forum. That's recurring revenue for that company. They have a monthly model you can pay on. Well, that's recurring revenue for them. If you use products like Grammarly, you know a lot of subscription-based products, Netflix, let's say Amazon Prime. So any of these types of services, they're charging you on a monthly basis. Why do they do this? Because they can count on predictable revenue over time. And as you know, as you grow your business, grow the numbers of customers, your recurring revenue from those customers can grow along with the numbers of customers that you have. So give you another example. For me specifically, medical software. Somebody would pay us for our software. They would pay us a one-time fee of, it was roughly 300,000 US. So it was a large sale. But we would also offer them maintenance. And we would say to them, if you want us to give you the updates to the software, you want us to fix the problems that may exist in the software, you want to be able to call our customer service reps, you can pay us, and our fee was around 20% of the sale price. You can pay that each year. So would you like that service or not? 99% of our customers accepted that service. So at a one-time sale, and then every year from that customer, we would get money from them for maintenance. Think about this. Every time we added a new customer, we get a one-time sale, and then we would add on their yearly maintenance. It took us maybe to year 3 of our business where even if we made not one sale, we had enough money coming in from recurring revenue from our maintenance service that we covered all of the expenses in our business. So think about the structure of how do you want to offer the sale of your product? Is it a one-time sale? Is it something that you charge over time? If you have a product, can you attach to that some other service that people would want that they would pay you every month or every year, in my case, in terms of maintenance? This says here, licensing. This is a big one. Okay, so licensing, really, if you go and you use Adobe or you're using Microsoft 360, let's see, our university uses Grammarly. What else would there be? Any of those are great examples of recurring revenue where somebody licenses you the product and then you have to pay them again over the next period of time. And these models have become very popular because it's less costly for we, the customer, to start using the product. Less costly. We don't have to put out a lot of money right at the beginning. We can spread that out over time. And companies like it for the reason I just mentioned to you. They like it because they can count on the revenue coming in every month. So think about a recurring revenue model. You'd heard of freemium. So you may use a piece of software, it may be offered to you for free, but if you want the really good features, you pay for those. So for example, LinkedIn has something called LinkedIn Premium. LinkedIn is free, but if you want LinkedIn Premium, you want to know who's looking at your profile, you want to be able to send messages to more people, you want to be able to look at job postings and things in a different way, you can do LinkedIn Premium. Grammarly. By the way, Grammarly is a English spell checking and grammar checking software. And I highly recommend all of you that are not native English speakers to look into Grammarly. And at ABS, we're about to offer that for free to all of our students, as well as our faculty and as well as our staff. But it's a tool that you can use for free, but the free version is not nearly as good as the premium version, the one that they charge for. You may be in a business where we have what's called a two-sided market. And if you think about this, this is you're bringing people together, and you have to bring those people together for you to create value, it says here, for you to get a transaction. So if you think about it, Amazon, what does Amazon do? It puts companies' products on its website. It matches that with customers. When they make a purchase, then Amazon is creating value, they're creating profit for themselves as well as the other people that participate on their platform. So how do you get there? Well, you can look at advertising as one way to create this revenue stream. So advertising, it says, allows any platform that courts a significant amount of people, traffic, potential customers, and it allows you to make exposure, it allows you to turn some of that, we say traffic, but it's a bunch of people looking at you, turn that into revenue. So you notice here's an ad for you, right? And you may get this all the time. I mean, where do I get the ads from? Bricoma, I get the ads from Electroplanet. Those really attract me because I'm a technology kind of nut. But there's a big sale going on. Maybe Katia offers you something. Oh, I'm going to click on that. And this is a way that we're now converting by using advertising potential customers into direct customers. Now, what kind of revenue model is best for your company? Is it that you have a one-time only fee? Is it that you have recurring revenue? Is it some combination of all of that? You start thinking about what your value proposition is. Okay, so what your value proposition is, and I've got a question for you. I'm going to see if I can pull up the chat here by myself, become independent. I got the chat going here now. Okay, here are two things on your screen. There are pain killers, and then there are vitamins. Can you tell me the difference between the value proposition for these two products? They're both pills, medicines-ish that you take, but what's the difference here between the two? When you think of differences, think of characteristics for them. Think of cost, think of frequency of use, think of anything else you want to think of. Go ahead and tell me what you think the difference is in the value proposition for vitamins versus painkillers. You can put that in the chat box, or if you want to talk, open up your mic, let us know who you are, and I look forward to hearing from you. So what do you think? Okay, so we have one on here. So we have, you take vitamins frequently, painkillers demand is inelastic, vitamin demand is elastic. Vitamin is a nice to have. Painkillers cure an existing problem. Vitamins support and provide. Okay, let me add the comment about Muhammad Mahu. You say painkillers demand is inelastic, vitamins are elastic. Do you want to explain that to us? Do you want to
Yeah,
unmute the mic?
yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, what I meant is actually with painkillers, the demand, like if the price of the painkiller changes, the demand doesn't change that much because we have an urgent need of that product. So it is a painkiller. So we need it, whatever, even like the change of the price cannot play that much in our demand or our demand like level of that need of that product. But the vitamin is elastic. So whenever the price goes up, we can like let go the vitamin. Maybe we don't need it anymore, and not like a painkiller which persists its need. The need persists. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a really good example. Thank you for the answers that you guys are giving here. I think that these are all good comments that you're making. And the difference between the two, it may be, let's click here, it may be the frequency of use. We have one which maybe we have a high frequency of use, and therefore maybe we would charge a lower price because people are using this often. It may be just like you heard, that if we raise our price, that the frequency of use may drop. On the painkiller side, exactly, it's a must-have. You may pay a high price for something that is a must-have. It's also not something you use every day. So if you're not going to use it every day, then in this case, maybe when we need it, we want it, maybe we can charge a higher price for it. Okay. So I think thank you for the comments that you guys are putting in the chat box for these two. So you have to ask yourself, what relationship will you have with your customer? How frequent will that relationship be with that customer? Okay, so is it something that the customer may use all the time? Is it something that the customer may only use infrequently? So how do you target your customers, and how do you target what they want or expect to pay? I don't know if you heard this during break. I don't know if it was in a breakout room or not, but I was asked the question about, well, how did I target what customers were willing to pay? When I started my software company, I had no idea what customers were willing to pay, right? So I was charging them $30,000 for the software product. Ultimately found out they would charge more, around $300,000 for the product. That's what they were willing to pay. And it took me a long time to figure that out. We calculated we lost about $9 million US because of our poor job of our target customer and what they wanted to or what they expected to pay. So we're sharing all of this with you now, so you have the knowledge. You can learn from our mistakes, and particularly the mistake that I made with my business. Okay, so you explore multiple revenue models, and you explore that for not just one type of customer, for many different types of customers. So what are the different segments that you may have, or the different groups of customers that you could sell to? And can you figure out for each of those groups their willingness to pay and how they want to pay? Are there certain groups that would want to pay you, for example, if you're offering software? They'd want to pay a one-time fee. Is there another group that wants that same software, but they would pay a monthly fee? Is there some way where you could say, okay, I can have a free version of what I'm doing, but if you want the premium versions of what I'm doing, then you pay for those additional services. You're looking at what are the multiple revenue models, all the ways that people may pay, and what makes the most sense for me for the customers that I am most likely to attract. So for those groups of people that are most likely to want to buy my product or service, what would they expect to pay, how much, and then how would they pay? So how do you do this? You learn as much as you can about your market. You understand what customers are in your market. You understand what the value proposition is that you're offering, or what they're looking for. What value are they looking for? You know what your competitors are doing as well. You know your product, you know its unique positioning within that market. Is it the same as everybody else? Let's hope not. You should have something that is unique about what you're doing, but you know your market, you know your product. And so knowing your market could be the competitors as well as the customers you have, the product, you know, its positioning. We just went through positioning of product based upon those things that are most critical to customers. And then you think a little bit about the unexpected, okay? You try to anticipate different things that could happen and what would best support you in the long run. So if you have a model, let's say that COVID happens, and I had my medical company still, which I don't now, I sold it, but my medical company, what would have happened to sales, me selling to hospitals? That probably would have been a big problem to have people buy an individual big sale. So maybe I would, for the unexpected, would be better to have revenue spread out over time, which would help me, subscription, I should say, or transaction-based maybe, spread that over time so it helps me deal with the unexpected. But the big point is this: you guys can experiment, okay? So you guys can go in and figure out, you can test many different ways. You can figure out who the customer segments are. Those are the different groups of people you may be selling to. And then you can figure out how much they would be willing to pay and then how they want to pay you. Is it some recurring model? Is it a one-time fee? Is it some combination of all of that? You can test. It says iterate, meaning you can continue to test and change, continue and test and change. In my case, it took me 3 years to continue to up my price, to figure out this is now the price people would pay. Secondly, I also experimented with recurring revenue from subscription. Don't pay me all at one time. Pay me every time you schedule an appointment. And we had maybe 20% of our revenue came in from customers that preferred paying every time they used our software versus paying us a one-time fee. So here's some things to think about. We call it the metrics. And in this, you've got to think about how long does it take you to convert customers, and how many of those customers do you convert? What do we mean that? The percentage of people, all the prospective customers that you may talk to, that you contact, how many of those actually purchase your product? That's a good question, right? So you've got to figure out of every, let's say 100 people you talk to, how many from that would actually want to buy from you? You can do that by tracking if you're directly talking to them. You can do that by tracking how many people visit your website. You can do that by tracking if you put something out on social media, how many people click on that, go to your website. If I could get some help to mute some of the mics, but you would go in, and if your mic isn't muted, I'd ask you to mute it. Okay, if any of my colleagues can figure out who that may be speaking and all right, now I'm talking. You're looking for how many people learn about you? Have you made them aware of your product or service? And ultimately, of all those people that have heard about you, what is your conversion rate? How many people have you converted? And a lot of companies, you may talk to 100 people, and it may be one person that you converted over. So how many people became a paying customer for you? Okay, we want to know that. Then we want to know this thing called the churn rate. What this is how many customers of you stick with you? How many customers of you aren't just a one-time purchasing customer? So how many people, you notice here, renew their subscriptions? So I remember that sports forum I'm a member of. I've been with them 10 years now. So I'm one of those guys that continues to stay with them on their site, but not everybody does. People drop off. So we can, how many people did you have at the beginning of a period minus how many people you had at the end of the period. And then you can take that, subtract that difference, and you know how many people dropped off. It's important, the churn rate. because it costs you more money to acquire an initial customer, to get that first customer, than it does to take an existing customer and keep them, or an existing company, a customer, and have them continue to pay more. The churn rate's very important. So if you're selling to people and you never see them again, it's a very difficult thing to continue to try to find new customers all the time. It's easier to keep your customers and it's easier to sell them extra stuff. So we look at this beginning of it all and we call it cost of client acquisition. And we want to know, for you to get a customer, how much is it costing you? Okay, so how much does it physically cost you? And it may cost you different amounts of money for different types of customers. So if you have to go and call people up on the phone and introduce your product or service to them, that's costly versus, for example, using social media. But you may have different strategies of how to reach different types of customers. If you're going to sell to a business, is very different than if you're trying to sell to an end user, an end consumer, or an end user. So we want to look at a number of things. These are just for you to think about. When we talk about Coca, we're looking at, from the top down, how many people are involved in marketing and sales, how much do they make, how much support is required to help in this marketing and sales effort, but it includes a bunch of other stuff on here too. So you see all the other costs. It could be travel, entertainment, events that you may host, conferences that you may go to, the website that you offer, the social media campaign that you offer. We want to know the total cost of that versus how many customers are we acquiring. So the total cost of our acquisition cost, remember I said to acquire a customer costs a lot more than, once you have the customer, keeping that customer. So we know this cost, and we're going to compare it later to, well, okay, does it even make sense for us to go after this type of customer? If it costs us more money than what we're making for the customer, it may not be the thing that we want to do. So you've got to think about ways to acquire customers. If you do big sales, you may do what we call direct sales, or big products, big services, big price tag. You may have people that you employ to call people up, to go visit with them, to try to make a presentation and have them do sales. This is a good way of meeting customers and making sales, but it costs a lot of money. So you've got to look at either improving how many people that learn about you, this conversion rate thing, how many learn about you and how many of them therefore buy your product, or you have to decrease how much it costs you to generate leads. Leads, what are leads? Leads are people that, once they hear about you, contact you for more information. Hey, I saw you on that social media campaign. Could you tell me more? Maybe they don't even contact you. Maybe they're going to your website. But once they get to your website, it's very difficult for them to maneuver through the website, so they give up. So we want to make sure that people, these leads that we're getting, that we're converting them into actual customers. We call this the sales funnel. Think about it. It starts like this, right? And up here, we have a lot of potential customers. As they start knowing about us, some customers say, no, I'm not potential customers. I'm not interested at all. And they're out of our funnel. We have lesser amount of people. Now these people contact you. Some of them decide to go on and learn more. Some go, yeah, it's not what I really want. So the funnel gets narrow. Our goal is to get people as quickly through the funnel as possible with the most success at the end. So the funnel goes like this. Maybe the funnel is more like this. More people are buying, less people buying, right? Starts with a lot, not many on the bottom. More people are buying. So when you think about your revenue model, think about how long it takes you to get customers, how much it costs certain customer groups to acquire them, because that cost you've got to consider, is it worth it? Is it even worth it at all? And at the end of it, start thinking too about the value of a customer over the lifetime. Remember, I said it costs you much more money to acquire a customer the first time. It costs you not much money to keep that customer, less money to keep a customer and sell product to them or services than it does to sell to another new customer and another new customer and another new customer. If you think about the value of that customer buying one product from you, the value of the customer, if you sell them something else or something else or something else, the value of that customer grows over the time that customer has a relationship with you. And we call this lifetime value of that customer. So I'm going to use my, well, let's use Apple. My experience with Apple, woo, I saw that laptop, I loved it. I got to have another one. I had a really good experience with the first MacBook Air. I'm probably on number 6 now, version of MacBook Air, but I'm talking to you on my iMac. I like the MacBook Air so much, I bought the iMac. I like the iMac so much, I bought the, whoops, can't see it, the Apple phone, right? What version of Apple phone is this? You know, how many of those have I purchased from Apple? Oh, wait a minute, what time is it here now? My Apple Watch. All right, you get the picture. I love Apple. But the important thing is the value of me over the lifetime to Apple. They've done a good job of maintaining a relationship with me and taking my money. Gee, I forgot to mention the other services, Apple TV. Let's see, my Drive I have with Apple, right? You get the picture. I think, do we have a question? I saw a hand that went up. And if you have a question, interrupt me at any time, okay? But the thing that we want to know here is, how can you generate more money with having a longer relationship with the customer over time? We learned this in my software company. We learned when we sold the hospital that we could sell them a product. They would get maintenance from us. They would then get consulting services from us. Then we expanded our first product to have 3 or 4 different products that all work together. And our existing customers would always purchase those from us. And it cost us a lot less money to sell all of those products to current customers than it did to go out and make a relationship with a new customer. At the end of it, so what are the value here? These are all the things I'm thinking about. I'm talking to you about now. What's the upfront, the one-time revenue stream, the upfront thing somebody's paying us? Are they giving any of us recurring money from us? Is there a subscription fee, maintenance fees, etc.? Are they buying new products from us? That's all the money we're taking in. We look at what we call gross margin. How much does it cost us to produce and sell that product? How many customers do we maintain? What's the retention rate? How long will they use that product or service? It's very important too. Is it that they're going to use the product for 1 year? They'll use it for 2, 3, 4 years? Are they going to purchase the next product from us? Did they have a good experience? So they're going to continue with the next version and the next version and the next version. And this last one on here, capital rate, and this is cost for you of doing the business. You may be getting finance, maybe a loan for the business. What is the cost of that to you? Here's how you can calculate it all. You can go back and look at this presentation. I won't go through this stuff line by line, but you want to know at the end, does it make sense to sell this product and this service with the costs that we have, okay, with the costs that we have. And it's important when you think about the different decisions that you have to make and the revenue streams that you have to make, what's important or not here. The ones that give you a lot of money, they're the ones that are important. We say gross margins make a big difference. How much money does it cost you to produce a product? Because that goes into factoring in, do you want to continue offering this product or service? And for me, the bottom line I learned is the last thing on this slide. Upselling opportunities can be very attractive. If you attract a customer, they're happy with you, they're very likely to buy something else from you. And you can continue to have that relationship with them. Not only do they buy products or services from you, what else do they do for you? They become an influencer for you because they're selling the product or service for you. Hey man, did you hear about that great company? My company name is Tempest Software. I love Tempest Software and I love it because the people there are great to work with. The product really works. Don't believe the company, believe me. And that's a very powerful message when you have a customer saying that on your behalf. We know this, the value of that customer It's got to be greater than the amount of money it costs us to attract and acquire that customer. So the amount of money we're getting from that customer has got to be greater than the amount of money it's spent us, making them aware of us, making them decide to buy our product. So if we have some, you notice on here, if the lifetime value of that customer is greater than what it cost us to acquire the customer, we've got a viable business model. If it's not, don't go for it. Don't go for it. Now, if the lifetime value of the customer is exceedingly much higher than what it costs us to acquire that customer, now you've got something scalable. And what do we mean by scalable business model? Something you can grow, something that you can replicate, something that a lot of investors will get excited about. There's a rule of thumb here that if you've got the lifetime value is 3 times greater than what it cost you to acquire customers, then that's a good objective to have. That's sort of something we should set on and we should use as a goal for our business. Okay. Thank you. You're awesome. Appreciate you listening. Let me stop sharing here. And what I'd like to do is first answer any questions that you have. Let me ask Lena, how much time do we have?
We still have 25 minutes.
Okay, good, because we're going to do an exercise here very shortly. Umaima, we're going to go into breakout rooms for this exercise, okay? But do you have questions about what I'm sharing with you? About revenue, where revenue streams come from, the different types of revenue streams, how you can price your product or your services? If you have any questions, let me know.
I can see Ahmed from Detect has a question. So maybe you can use the button reactions on the...
Yeah, sure. Ahmed.
Yeah,
What
hi, Professor.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for the presentation.
By the way, I don't know this guy at all, so I hear he's a little shady. No, he's a great guy. Anyway, Ahmed.
Professor, I have a question about revenue, about cost, how to calculate cost. You know that, for example, we are in early stage. Many of startups are in early stage startups, so they don't know all the details of hypothesis. How we can know each technology, each manufacturing? Do we make just hypotheses based on our competitors, based on just Googling, based on estimates with contacts? How we do the best way, or like each way in Morocco with Corona also?
Yeah, yes to all of it, Ahmed, and you're very right. You don't know. You have no idea, but you're using your best guess. And so if you think about when we talk about customer analysis, remember you're going to go talk to customers. So if you think about this, what we're doing is the same thing when it comes to revenue and costs of revenue. And that means that we're making our best guess. And it means that we're then going to go try to validate that hypothesis. And we're going to validate it the best way we can, do research on the internet, trying to contact experts, trying to figure out the exact cost. The more data you have, the better you're going to be feeling comfortable moving forward, that you know you've made a right decision. You're guessing right now, though, Ahmed. Guess and test.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Do you need any more people on your team? Are you set? You're set, right?
Yeah, we are fine.
Okay.
We are cool.
Okay.
A wonderful
Right.
team.
I was going to make a pitch for you, but no need to.
Thank you.
Good deal. So it is a guessing game. It's the best estimates that you have. Remember, they're only estimates. What do we know? They'll be wrong. But the more data you have, the better comfort you will have that the data you have is correct. So Rafiq, I think Rafiq has raised his hand. What do you have to say?
I am Bassem from Rafiq. It's actually the virtual assistant. If you
yeah. Sorry, Bassem.
Okay, it's fine. So the question is regarding how can I tell that this is enough to ask a company for money? For example, to make it clearer, we are trying now to reach customers to list their products in Rafiq. So imagine that you're asking Rafiq for a product price or something. Then Rafiq lists this products inside the application, and then we are going to charge the corporate or the company for being listed inside Rafiq. But of course, yes, we have traction, but how do I know that this is enough conversion for conversion rate for this company to ask them for money? Because I'm really approaching these companies and say, okay, we are going to test it together and see the conversion rate, and then we can talk later on about the how much money we are going to charge you and stuff like that. So how many conversion rate that would be enough to be able to say that I can charge you for money? Yeah.
Oh man, you're going to hate my answer, because my answer depends. It depends on what your customers are willing to accept as an acceptable conversion rate. So
Okay.
when you deal with customers and you've got a company and you place their product on your website, and they get one customer from placing your product on the website, it's not all as valuable to that potential company, is it, as if you were to have 1,000 people that you sold product through your website, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we don't know in your case is what would be acceptable. What's the critical factor, success factor from your customer, where you ask your potential customer, you ask the business, okay, we're going to do this together. We're going to look at the statistics. What would you consider success? What's success for you? And they tell you, they say, if you sell one product for us, that's not success. We don't care. It's too much effort. If you sell us 100, well, now we're starting to get really interested in this. If you sell 1,000, we're going to be very happy. You're not going to know until you talk to the customer and then you try.
Okay, but what if they tried to negotiate, like they were like set a high number, of course, because they want to pay less, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
well,
for example, if it was 100 product, they would say 500 to pay less.
Well, you do this for a limited amount of time, right? If they're on your website, you're doing it for not forever for free. So you're saying to them, let's go ahead and test this. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what makes sense and success for you. But if it were me, it would be, okay, let's try it for 90 days. Let's try it for whatever the time that you think. But I wouldn't continue to offer it for free forever, because if they say to you, well, look, success is 500, you've only given us 100, and you go, okay, sorry, we've only given you 100, so we were not successful. We'll move on. Maybe they'll go, oh, no, wait a minute. No, that's fine. We'll take the 100.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, this is good idea.
Yeah, well, I think so. And it is a testing game, Basim. And I remember doing this with hospital customers. It was another software company that I had started. And we did the same thing. We said, use our product for free. And then we're going to monitor together what the savings are for you. And based upon those savings, we're going to then negotiate a contract.
Yeah.
And the only way to know is to try it, or that it's to have lots of potential customers tell you what success means for them. When does it make success for them? And does that make sense for you to maintain a relationship if the money's not good for you? If it's free, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
If eventually you convert it into a paying customer, for sure. But test, revise. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. Okay, we can take one more question if we have one more. Okay, anybody else have a question?
I saw Muad, I think.
You see a question somewhere?
Actually, my teammate had already asked the same question. So thank you so much.
Okay, sure. You're welcome. All right, let's do this. We're going to do a quick exercise. I want you to go back into your companies. And what I'd like you to do is start listing the revenue streams. I want you to start thinking about the revenue model. Do you think that your model is a one-time fee that you would charge? Is there an idea for recurring revenue? List off what it would be. I want you then to tell me how many different types of revenue streams do you think you could have? Would you have people paying you a one-time fee, some people paying you a subscription fee? Would you sell products, services? Can you sell maintenance? What are they? Give me a list of the types of revenue you expect to come in. That means one-time sales, recurring sales. Then give me the types of customers that you think, the different streams of revenue that would come in for your different products or services. Does this make sense? Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, try to take 10 minutes to do that, because this will start moving you in the direction of thinking about where money will come from. Okay, so take 10 minutes to do it, drop into your breakout rooms, and then we'll come back and we'll debrief.
Okay, great. So I'll open up the breakout rooms now. We'll see you guys at 4:20. We have 4 minutes to go for a break.
Could you repeat that again? I don't know if it's just me that it broke up with.
I think that we have 5 minutes break, so we can come back at 4:30, 4:27, 4:30 should be fine. Okay,
Excellent.
perfect. Thank you. See you then.
Thank you. Thank you.
city train. Spend some time on the road. And one morning I woke up in LA. Got my breath on the cold.
See you. I hope you had a good break. We want to, before we introduce Farzine back to you guys, we wanted to spend a few minutes debriefing with you what you talked about in your breakout sessions about revenue. We wanted to ask you a little bit about, for your particular company, what did you come up with? What are the potential revenue models? And then what are the potential revenue streams that you may have? Remember, models could be the types of the way you would charge for it. Is it a one-time fee? Is it a subscription fee? Within that, are there maintenance or things? And then revenue streams. What different types of revenue streams exist for you? Products, services, etc. So we want to pick on some of you guys. I may ask Hessa Umaima, do you want to pick out a group and we can ask the representative of that group to debrief us, give us some information about what they talked about?
So you want me to pick a group?
Yes, you're going to be our picker. You're going to randomly select, or whomever you want to select. You're going to put them on the spot. But this is what happens to entrepreneurs anyway. So it's up to you.
Okay, so I opened the file and the first name I saw on the list was Mekano. So
Okay. Do we have
it's me, guys.
Awesome. Do we have a representative here with us from the group? Yeah, we do.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Well, how are you?
I'm fine.
Hello,
thank
Professor.
you.
How are you?
Aren't you happy to be first again? So tell us what you.
We had some questions. In fact, we discussed this revenue stream in our team, but we had some problems or some misunderstanding. We found out that for defining our revenue stream, we should know how much we will invest in this project.
Well, the first thing you can do, and my advice to you and recommendation is, first thing to do is list what you think the potential revenue streams are, or also list what you think the potential revenue model is. Okay, they're two different things. And so the revenue model is, how do you think you're going to charge people for your product or service? Is it one-time fee? Is it a subscription fee? Is it a combination of both of those? And then on the other side, okay, then on the other side, put in where you think the money would come from. Okay, different types of products or services or customers, maybe where the money comes from. If you
our revenue stream okay?
Go ahead, please.
Continue, please. Thank you. Is our revenue stream should be based on a study or just a guess?
Well, where you start is with an idea. Okay, but the more data that you then gather, the better study you mentioned, the better you can have confidence that what your idea is a good one, or you start to revise what that idea is. So I always say in a group like you guys, talk about it. You guys make your best guess, come up with what you think the answers are. Once you have those, you can test that. We call that a hypothesis, you know, because we're academic people, but you can test the question. Would people pay you a one-time fee? Would they pay you a subscription fee? And then the different types of revenue streams that you get, are those really accurate? Are there customers that exist that would buy those products or services for those different revenue streams? And
Thank
so
you, Professor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor, for your valuable explanations. Maybe Salma has more questions to ask about. Yes.
Yes. Actually, we have a question about the competitors, defining our competitors. How can we define the indirect competitors? For the direct one, it's clear for us, but the indirect one, the idea is not so clear.
Okay. The indirect competitors are people that are selling products or services that would take away from your business. So instead of buying your product or service, would somebody buy something else instead? So I use the example that if I'm a coffee shop, would people go, yeah, I don't want coffee, I'm going to go to the tea house instead? Okay, I'm a restaurant that sells Indian food. Well, would the other restaurants that sell Indian food are my direct competitors, but who's going to be an indirect competitor? Other types of restaurants. How about Glovo? Right? Glovo delivers food. Nobody has to even come to your restaurant. So maybe they're an indirect competitor that it takes business away from you. It is the things that are not directly related to you that could take business from you. Does this make any sense or no?
Yeah. Now it's clear. Yeah, we can just make a research about that to find the indirect competitors. Thank you so much, Professor.
Well, you're welcome. You just start doing, and you know, the more you talk to customers, the more you're going to find out. So if you're talking to customers and you've got your idea, you can do, oh, by the way, you know, if you don't buy this, what else do you do? You mentioned we were doing role playing a few days ago about a student in CASA. Zainab was doing it. She was a student in CASA. How did she get to university? And she used the bus. But how other ways could you go? If you don't use the bus, what else? You could drive a car, you could ride your bike, you could walk, you could use a scooter. And that would all be indirect competition to people selling bus service. Yeah, good.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Hey, do we still have a few minutes?
Yeah,
yes,
we still have.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Roll the dice here again, or roll the wheel, and it's Umayma's going to pick for us again. Somebody else.
Maybe the folks from UNote this time.
Okay. Who from UNote is going to step up and speak to us? What did you guys talk about? And let us know. I think we have Karim as well as Taha.
Hi. Hello, sir.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Oh, I am well, my friend. How are you?
Well, thank you.
I'm doing great. So tell us about, debrief us. What did you talk about?
So we have two main revenue streams. The first is through publicity, and the second is through a monthly subscription.
Okay. Tell me about the first one. Give me some more details on that.
Well, the first one is publicity. We show some ads on our app, and it is we have two subscription. The first is with money, and the first is free, and the free version is we show ads on the free version, but the second version that you pay, we don't show ads, and we have more services.
Okay, so you've got the two revenue streams. You've got the first one that you mentioned is publicity, and then you have the second one, which is subscription. Do you think that there is a way that, well, let me ask you this. Do I want to do that first or not? So you're selling publicity, you're also selling subscription. Let me ask you about who you would sell those to. Are there different types of people you sell those to?
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we're actually selling those services and products to our students of our school, as well as our professors. There's also two other sections which we can consider it as our revenue models, which are the collocation and the carpooling sections, where we can have our commissions from helping people to like find someone to pick them up and go to school, as well as finding a housing. So we always take our commissions from these two sections. as well as the publicity, the advertising that Yahya talked about. So these are our mainly revenue models. I guess that's all. Let me think about something.
Is it, so I think what I'm hearing is I think you've got ways to sell additional products and services to a person, to a customer. So a customer buys something from you, then they may have additional things that they're going to buy from you. As I
Yeah,
recall,
exactly.
when I was listening to you guys, I think it was a day or two ago, the question you're going to have to answer is, what are the most valuable things that customers would want? So what are that's because it seemed like you're offering quite a bit that's different.
Yeah. When we made our market study, most of students had rather choose the collocation in carpooling services than the other ones, because most of them come with from other cities, and they all of their houses are so far from school, so that's why they've chosen these special sections. But we still think that the restoration section can do a lot for us as well, because we're planning on making some co-brandings with the Glovo, with Jumia, with everything else. But we're
Okay.
still thinking about it.
Okay. And then the goal for you guys is to figure out which of those are most important for success for your business. And that also includes, well, how much money would people pay?
So we also have another. Yes, sorry for interrupting you. We also have another area which concern our digital library. We're thinking about making some kind of like making a special price for the students, and buying the copyrights for some books that the students have some difficulties to find in our courses goal, you know. So we thought about this as well, but we're still not sure about these ones, about restoration and digital library.
I think you can test all of that. When you start going, we're going to have you go out, talk to customers, and we're going to have you record down what they're saying, and then what was the question that you were trying to test? And then the answers that you got, what do you think about that thing that you were trying to test? So in this case, that additional service, well, do you think it's worthwhile or not? But you're going to get all that from your customers. So very interesting. I think it's a really interesting project that you guys are working on. And I appreciate your time sharing it with the rest of the group. So thank you very much.
Oh, sure. I
Thanks.
appreciate all of your sessions, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
We're here for you. Okay. So anytime you need us, you reach out to us. Okay.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So my colleagues, do we have time for one more?
I guess so. I cannot see as for Zines, and yes, we can go ahead.
Yeah, one more. Okay, you know where we are here. So we have Umaimo's going to pick one more for us.
So we'll go with in Atlantis, maybe now.
Good. All right. In Atlantis, tell us what you talked about. Debrief us.
Yeah, we're talking about the choice we've made. It's a freemium revenue model. And we've made this choice based on three main things. The first thing is the frequency of usage. Like the problem we're solving is not something you can solve once. It's an ongoing thing. If you want to speak a language fluently, it takes time. So the frequency of usage, the ability to have a wide range of features that you can add, that will make the premium user experience way better, and also the need of word of mouth. So we won't stop people. We should have a free version. So yeah, that's I think that's it.
Okay. Okay. So how are you're going to have a freemium version and then a premium version, correct?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And then have you decided in the freemium version what the features are that are necessary for people to want to come back and use the service versus the premium where you're making your money, where they would go, oh yeah, I really need that?
I see. Yes, yes. Well, for the free version, mainly the main one is that you're gonna be limited in the number of group calls you will join per month. So it's like you taste the experience, you see how it works, and let's say twice a month. And if you're interested in more, then you have to pay the subscription, the fee. And also there are some features like translation, like setting objectives and tracking progress, like having customized group calls based on the center of interest. Takeaways, something that you will have in the end of the call, some things that you've written actually. And yeah, but as of now, the main feature is the number of group calls you can join.
Okay, so it's an interesting concept. I think that, what would I say for you guys? My advice would be for you that I like the concept. I would say you have to really figure out what customers need as the minimal viable features. So they'll come and try and stick around, and what really would give them an upsell to go, oh yeah, I really need that. You know, immediately I think of my Grammarly example. If you've ever tried Grammarly, you're like, okay, that works okay. But the premium features give you really a lot more, that they really drive you to the premium side. And I think you've got that. I think we mentioned too, for you guys, the different revenue streams may come from different types of customers. There may be different profiles of customers that you would focus in on. We talked about that, right? Not everybody who's learning language would take advantage of this particular service. But we appreciate the feedback. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you guys for your time. I think that at this moment, we're going to transition on over back to Lena, which will explain to us, she'll explain to us what's going on. And then we'll introduce Farzin.
Great. Thank you very much, David. And thank you for all the teams and your participation. So now I think that Farzin is with us and we can start the next session. It's more about how to present your idea and how to get all the best practices for your pitch. Farzin, welcome.
Hey there. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, great. Great.
Wonderful, wonderful. Where is everybody? I only see Ahmed that's on. Nicely done. Thank you for not being shy. All right. I see some people coming on. Good on camera. Yes, don't be shy. Especially, look, most of the stuff, as we talked about customer discovery yesterday, certainly when you're going to do your pitches, things like that, you want your face. Humans interact with humans, right? We're going to actually start off with that in a second as part of the presentation, but so much of business is about human connection and human understanding, whether it's doing customer discovery, where you're learning what your customer is dealing with, what their human behavior currently is and what they want it to be, or you're doing a pitch and you're interacting, you're kind of sharing with someone some of the things that you've learned about a business market, and it's really about the humanity of it. So don't be shy. Make sure you turn on your videos. It's good practice, and make sure you're using it going forward. So let me jump right into the fun by sharing. All right. Hope everyone can see the deck. Give me a thumbs up if you see it.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So here's a couple things. We're going to talk about pitching and communication, an overview, right? And I know a lot of you have probably watched TV programs and things like that, and that's your concept of what a pitch is and what it really includes. And we're going to talk about it, but really the heart and soul of any pitch we're going to talk about is just is common in any type of human communication. Okay, so let's jump into it. So first of all, really congrats. This is 5 days of a boot camp you've gone through so far. There's a lot of stuff that you've done. There's a lot of stuff that you've learned, and there's a ton more that I'm hoping that you're learning that you need to learn. So really what it comes out to when you're doing any kind of pitch, you're doing any kind of communication, it's about sharing what your story is, okay? It's really about two pieces of it. There's a component of any kind of pitch or any kind of communication that's a storytelling. That's the human side, and you conveying some information that people can understand and remember, okay? And then the second part of it is some just general best practices when it comes to presenting and also to pitch, okay? So we're gonna go through all of those together. So why are stories important as far as anything goes? Well, it's basically because we're human. I mean, literally, that's what it comes down to, okay? We are differentiated as a species by storytelling, okay? We've learned our own history through it. If you think about it, we started it way, way early. Cave paintings, right? Think about that. That's an old-fashioned communication. That's a storytelling that we left behind. So we learned what was going on back in our previous versions of us as humans, right? Think about religious teachings. Think about stories, Greek mythology. Think about any kind of long, stories that have lasted thousands and thousands of years. Before even any writing was done, right? How did it last? It was through storytelling, right? And so that's part of our legacy. It's part of us being human. And it's not just me making this up. Has anyone heard of this book by Harari? If not, I know it's available in different languages. It's called Sapien, A Brief History of Humankind. It is absolutely a fascinating book if you get a chance to read it. But I'll give you a little quick preview of why it's important, of how it kind of matches what we're talking about. So from 2 million years ago to about 100,000 years ago, there were several human species around, okay? Now, something really important occurred about 70,000 years ago. There was this cognitive revolution in our species of humans, and we were the only ones that could develop fictive language and tell stories. And basically, the long story short is that we're still around and none of the other species are, right? Because of this, part of this theory is because of this fictive language, because of this being able to tell stories, because of this to carry on our history, we're able to work better for a higher shared function, and we became the sole surviving humans, okay? So part of the storytelling is, why do we do it? Because it's us, it's humans, we're part of it, okay? So let's do a second scientific thing about it as well. You're 22 times more likely to remember facts if they're tied to a story, okay? So there's a cognitive scientist, psychologist, Jerome Bruner. This is a fact that he stated. So, in academia, I'm sure you're used to hearing lectures and if you're defending a thesis, you stand up there, you just rattle off a whole bunch of metrics and data and data and data and data. Well, chances are, most likely when people leave after an hour, after 10 minutes, they don't remember 95, 99% of anything that you said because there was just so much information. So on the business side, when you are pitching, when you're presenting, it's highly, highly effective to have a story that you're wrapping your ideas and your facts and your metrics around so that people can actually remember. Okay? And it's also really about, just like storytelling, it's about identifying the things that are important. Okay? We'll get to that in 1 second, what that means in a minute. So now you might say, look, are there just natural storytellers and natural speakers that are much better than others? Absolutely. Look, there are great storytellers, great presenters who have a natural competitive advantage, right? This is Melody Hobson, right? If you don't know her, she ran DreamWorks for a whole bunch of years. If you've ever heard her speak at TED Talk, and like that, his is just like melted honey. It is amazing. She's like Steve Jobs, like, you know, Obama, if you've ever heard him speak, right? And these folks are just have a natural competitive advantage. And you're probably saying, well, how do I ever work? And how do I ever compete with that? Well, here's the good news. Because, so some of you might have that, which is fantastic. If you don't, that's not a problem, because learning how to tell a story will engage and captivate your audience and create that unfair advantage. I'm going to give you an example of someone. If you've not, has anyone heard, does everyone here know Elon Musk from Tesla World? Okay.
Yes, of course.
Good. Have you heard him speak? Yeah. Okay. Reem, what do you think? I mean, he's probably one of the most uncomfortable people on stage, right? He's awkward.
Yes, I saw TEDx.
Yeah, it's almost like he wants to get off the stage as quickly as humanly possible. He's all over the place, but he tells a good story, right? So is he the gifted speaker as Melody is here? Absolutely not. But how does he captivate you and keep going? Great storyteller. Okay, so I am certainly not a Melody. How do I do it? Practice, good story, and keep it going. All right. So what are the 3 goals of any kind of communication? There are 3 things that you should always, always remember as you enter any kind of communication, especially a pitch. 1.
Mr. Farzin, can I interrupt you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the story. It needs to be the hook, like it needs to be the first thing to start with, or it needs to be anywhere in the pitch?
We'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Good question. Yeah, if it's not clear near the end, let me know. We'll iron it out. It's basically the entire thing, right? But we'll go through it. So the first thing is get your audience to understand. All right, and I'm going to use an analogy, an old analogy, and it's a US based one. And so I hope it kind of resonates, but this was about 15 or I don't know, 15, 20 years ago or something. We had a huge hurricane. It was called Hurricane Katrina that impacted the southern area, the Gulf area of the United States. Huge impact, right? And it basically destroyed the city of New Orleans. And so I'm going to use that as an analogy to talk through it. So when you talk about Katrina, the hurricane, you can, certainly as an understanding, look how big it is, right? It is a ginormous hurricane, as you can see. It is coming in. It is almost the size of the state of Texas, that hurricane. And as you can see, it's going to cause some devastation. Okay, so that's one level of communication and that you need to bring with your presentation. But that's not enough, because to understand is almost just at a clinical level, right? Because when we look at this, we're like, yeah, it looks tough, but as humans, we have a hard time wrapping our brains around that. What does that mean, right? So the second part is as important, if not more, which is not only to understand, but also to care, right? So this is where the human aspect of it and also your customer discovery becomes very, very important, is because you will be able to give a very specific use case of the problem, of the existing. So in this scenario, instead of just talking about this ginormous hurricane and the millions and billions of dollars and lives in devastation it cost, you can talk about a very specific use case. So this gentleman right here, he had lived in a parish in New Orleans all his life. Small house that he grew up in, where his parents grew up in. Within a matter of 48 hours, this person lost everything that they've ever had. And it wasn't about monetary stuff. It wasn't, these weren't very rich people to begin with. They just lost everything, all the pictures, all the documents, all the family things, everything that was actually meant something to them, and they could never, ever recover. Okay. And so this man had no clue what to do, so it was just a complete devastation and complete impact of what their life is. And it was just, I don't even know what to do the next step. Okay. And then last but not least, take action. What do you need? What's the ask at the end? You're not sitting there presenting or talking to a bunch of folks because it's, you know, it's just fun. There must be an ask. Okay. What is the action that you want to be taken? What are the next steps that you want from the people you're presenting to? Okay. So understand, care, and take action are the overview and the core of it. Okay. So storytelling, this is the three big components, and then we'll dive into a whole bunch of stuff what's in there. So you're probably thinking to yourself, well, you know, can't tell a good story if I don't have one. Well, you do. Everyone does. And especially now starting with your journey in customer discovery, because it really is about what you're learning about your customers and sharing that. Okay. So I know I'm gonna ruin this story for everyone here if you don't know what it is, but storylines are just like this, just like Star Wars. Okay. So if you haven't watched it, by the way, the original 3 Star Wars, this is a I'm giving away the ending here, but here's basically what happens. There's this guy, Luke Skywalker, he's a protagonist, right? Just hanging out, living this world, has dreams, but that's it. He's basically a farmer and he's just doing his thing. All of a sudden, the world turns upside down when he gets these droids. He gets some motivation. The biggest conflict is in the middle, in that Empire Strikes Back, when he finds out actually that the person, the most evil person in the world, happens to be his father. Then he meets this guy Yoda. He becomes a Jedi, and at the end, they all win. Why? He defeats the evil, saves his father's soul, and the universe is a better place, right? So that's a story arc. Okay. So let's walk that through on the business side. And we actually talked about this a few days ago, and I'd mentioned that I would bring it up at some point. And this is one of the biggest Apple drivers and stories that kind of gets mistaken. Most of you, when you think about the iPhone or any kind of this platform here, I don't know why I can't see it anymore. There we go. Is that there's this assumption that, hey, Apple just throws technology at us and we just need it. We don't even know we need it. We just need it. Well, let me tell you why Apple is where it is today in its second revision of what it did, right? And this was one of the biggest drivers. And it had nothing really to do with us at the end. It really had to do with the business and the money. So this was about early year 2000. We were all sitting there listening. The customers were sitting there listening to music, okay, doing their thing. What happened was this: as consumers, we were tired of paying for CDs, compact discs. Now, I know all of you are probably too young to remember compact discs or even had compact discs, but there were these discs that had music on them, okay? And so we had to buy these darn things, and they were expensive. In the US, they're about $20 or so, and we only liked 2 songs. So we were paying $20 for 2 songs. We didn't have much of a choice. We just did it. It was what it was. Well, what happened was technology, something magical happened in technology. All of a sudden, internet connections, broadband, became a commodity. We went from dial-up to network connections, and all of a sudden we were able to get connectivity. And at the same time, MP3 technology came about. So what did people start doing? They started ripping CDs and putting them online. And this concept was born called Napster. So what was Napster? Napster was basically this free song sharing platform. It was brand new to society. No one knew what to do with it. It was almost like a virus. The music industry had no idea how to deal with it. They had no rules. There was nothing to do with this before. So people were literally throwing free music around, and people could download it. No one could track them. They didn't know what to do. Well, who did this hurt the most? Was it about us? No. Was it about the musicians? We like to think so. No, it was all about the record companies. So the number one driver, the number one decision, one of the smartest things that Jobs ever did was realize the pain of that specific situation for the record companies. The record companies were losing a ton of money because their records were no longer being bought at volume. They were losing a ton of money. And so what did they do? They said, here's what we can do for you. We will put an online music store, an exclusive one, up, put your music up there, and you can sell your music individually. You don't have to sell them as a set in a CD. So the music folks were upset with that. They're like, well, we won't get the full revenue. We're making $20, now we're making $1 off a song. So, well, think about it. You also now don't have all this production cost. You don't have to make these physical CDs, the covers, all the paper, all that stuff. All that stuff goes away. So in fact, you're not going to be losing money. You're going to be making more money. And we know that people will actually pay the $1, the 99 cents, the $2 for a song. They're just tired of paying $20 for a CD. So that enabled the unfair advantage, the value, if you will, for the record companies, that provided the value also for the musicians, and also lastly for us as consumers who are going to pay to have that music. Technology-wise, and here's where technology actually did not matter. From what I understand, I didn't have that back then, but the two competing technologies before Apple put the iTunes store up was the iPod, and then the other one was the Zune, the Microsoft Zune. Everyone that's been an engineer on the technology side had told me that the Zune, the Microsoft tool, was a better tool, was a better piece of technology. Who here has a Zune? Exactly. Who here has some kind of phone that's this form factor that plays music and does all kinds of other stuff? Pretty much all of us, right? So what the driver was nothing to do with the technology. It had to do with identifying a must-have need for a must-have market segment. So what Jobs was able to do to solve this issue was to put together an exclusive marketplace with all the music, and with an inferior technology, with the iPod, capture the market and put away a better technology from Microsoft. Why didn't they use the better technology? Because technology, just for the technology's sake, is worthless. Because what the bottom line, what is it that we wanted? We wanted to be able to listen to music. The Zune, we didn't have access to music. There was no music to get. Apple signed this contracts with the record companies. They had all the music. Simple. They lost. Okay. So understand that, understand how business drives things. Now, as you can see, this was the story as kind of as we walk through of what the problem is, who the customers were, what the value proposition is, and what the product and solution was. Okay. So 5 important elements of a compelling story. So let's jump into these as well, because these are really important to consider. Number 1, you start out by naming the enemy. Okay, I know it sounds really dramatic. Give me a second here. By the enemy, we mean the status quo. Okay, you don't start a pitch by starting to talk about yourself, your team, your product, your addressable market. You start by talking about what's in the way of getting what's getting in the way of your customers' happiness. Okay, you talk about the now. Your enemy is the status quo. Your enemy is currently what's happening with your customers. Okay, you do it by painting an emotional, resonant picture of how your customer is struggling and who or what is to blame. That's it. And it's one of the most important things you have to establish. And the important thing about this as well is the fact that you have to be very specific. Okay. Remember the Katrina story. In fact, we'll give you another example of the Katrina one of why it's so impactful to use a use case instead of, 30,000. Your enemy shouldn't be world hunger. Yes, we know world hunger is a big deal, but you need to focus. What part of world hunger are you going to tackle first? Okay. Two, this is extremely important as well for audiences such as, especially investors. They're very skeptical, right? What we want to think is, well, people who've lived a long time, they've done this, they've done people. It's hard to get people to change. What does make it the right time, right? What makes this? What economic, social? Why have events lined up to make this the right time? Of why now? Okay. Now, and the reason I tell you that is this. I've seen all your videos that you've posted. I've looked at the list of all the problems you're solving. I can tell you, in the last 3 years, I've worked with, I work with easily about 300 or so startups a year. I have seen at least 3 or 4 companies a year trying to do something similar to what you're trying to do, each of you. Okay? That's why it's so important for you to be able to identify why you have the answer of why now, right? Again, it's all about using facts and metrics from customer discovery. Now, this is really important as well. Showing the enemy's defeat before explaining how you can make it happen sometimes feels wrong for novice presenters, like blurting out a punchline of a joke. But when your audience knows where you're headed, you're more likely to understand and sit there for the ride, okay? So by that we mean, let them know fairly quickly, so item 1 was to show them the enemy. Fairly quickly, you also show them what the value proposition and the customer is as well, okay? Less about your product and your solution, more about the value proposition, okay? So said differently, let's go use the analogy of the Apple. So the problem being record companies were losing a ton of revenue, a ton of customers because of Napster. It's not about, oh, iPod, iTunes, megahertz, bandwidth, number of volume of songs. No, the value proposition is recapturing X amount of revenue, reducing X amount of production costs when it comes to blah, blah, records and tapes and things like that. And then recapturing the lost revenue by X amount of time. That's the value proposition, okay? Show them tell us what that solution is. This is a really, really big one because sometimes people forget about this. You really, really need to understand that it's okay to talk about there's going to be problems, there's obstacles, there's things you don't know, okay? This is your opportunity to establish credibility and trust, all right? If you claim that there's no obstacles, you're just gonna, everything's gonna fall in line, that you know everything, people are gonna ignore you, okay? We know startups are not easy. We know that there's unknowns that you're gonna run into. And so, what you wanna be able to do is identify a bunch of things that you feel that you're going to be able to struggle, that you might struggle with. And in fact, that actually becomes part of your ask, right? If you don't have skill sets when it comes to a certain operational topic, one of those asks, if you will, at the end is, can you connect me with someone that I can put on my advisory board? Can you help me hire someone that helps me with operational functionality or X, Y, and Z? Okay, these are all really, really important things. And then last but not least, it's really about facts, right? This is really about everything being surrounded by data. This is about your feelings. This is again, why customer discovery is such a big, big part of what you're doing. It's really about results from customer discovery. If you've gotten to a place where you have actually a product, this would also be results of any kind of MVP testing, things like that. Make sure it's not about you selling a dream without any kind of anchored solid data, okay? The other thing that's really important here as well, if you're stating something that's not been validated or proven through customer discovery or testing, don't do it. Because at that point, you're basically sending out something that's fake, that's false, okay? And you will get called out on it, all right? Trust me, people listening to pitches, advisors, investors, these folks, we know what to look for. We know what the keywords are, and we're very good at picking on those things. Bottom line, at the end of the day, it's really about getting, gathering all this data that you have and turning them into insight that makes sense, okay? So let's go through really quickly a collection of tips of becoming a great presenter. Number one, your slide shouldn't look like this, okay? I know it's as if you're coming from the engineering background, technology background, if you've got every single word of everything that you're saying on your slide, it's gonna put people to sleep. So don't do that, okay? You wanna make sure that you have a presentation and you have a deck that are engaging and keep people interested and aware, okay? In fact, here's a key. Your deck, your presentation should never distract from what you're saying, okay? Think of the deck, the presentation of just what it is, which is a complement to what you're saying. It shouldn't be additional information. It shouldn't be for them to just read while you're speaking. And in fact, that's one of the key things you want to avoid, okay? Really quickly, timeline does not equal a story. So when you're just telling a story, don't just go through timeline of facts, okay? Let me quickly just talk about, as an example here. This is Indra Nui. If you guys knew her, she used to be the CEO of PepsiCo. So why is this important as an example to bring up? Well, there's two ways of understanding or learning about Indra. If I was presenting on Indra and I was trying to help you understand and learn about her, there's one way of doing it. One is kind of doing it the way Wikipedia does, which starts, with her parents, early life, education, her favorite, brand of wine, which are just useless. And it's just too much information. We won't have time to go through all of that. In fact, you won't remember most of that. But if you're telling a story and you want to focus on the 3-4 most important things about Indra, one of the things I would talk about is that here is probably the most important metric. She was the CEO of PepsiCo. PepsiCo is the mothership of Pepsi-Cola. During her 12 years at CEO, the sales of this company increased 80%. Think about that. 80%. This is not a brand. This was not a brand new company. This was not a startup. This is an existing, established company in the middle of human awakening when it comes to being healthy. She managed to take that company that basically made, a product that people were starting to think was unhealthy, right? It's brown, fizzy sugar water, right? She turned the reputation and diversified the company in order to turn sales and revenue up. So in one of the, where other companies were failing because of this new awakening of consciousness of health, she was able to diversify by adding brands like Tropicana orange juice, by water, by coffees, teas, and other things, okay? She was one of the Forbes 100 most powerful women 3 years in a row. And then on top of that, one of the most important things is that she also knew how to deal with a time of crisis, right? I don't know if you guys saw that. One of our Kardashian folks, Kendall Jenner, they had hired her for an ad, which was really seen in the United States as tone deaf. She stepped up immediately and put a stop to it. It wasn't about pointing fingers. It wasn't about firing others. She said, nope, this should have never gotten past me. This will never happen again. And that was the end of that. Accepting responsibility, accepting leadership, and being a very, very strong leader, okay? So see the difference between a testimony and an engagement, right? You want to focus when you do storytelling, when you talk about your journey and about your product and about your market, you want to really just highlight on the things that are most important. So remember, storytelling is data and emotion. Now let's go through a couple more tips and tricks together here. You want to connect with your audience. Okay, I cannot overemphasize this. This is so important for you. Okay, make sure you're connecting with your audience. What do we mean by that? Well, it means at the beginning, if there's a way to break the ice, right? And when you start a presentation, you can just say, you know, if your audience includes a group of folks that you know have done customer discovery, just ask that really quick. As a quick survey, hey, who here has done customer discovery? You know, things like that. It's about really connecting with your audience. The other thing that's really important when we say connect with your audience is that you have to know your audience. Not every presentation, not every pitch is going to be the same for every single person. Okay. In fact, your presentations, your pitches are going to change depending on who you're presenting and who you're pitching to. If you're pitching to a business audience, it's going to be a different type of pitch. If you're pitching to a technical audience, it's a different type of pitch. And it also depends on time. Sometimes you literally have 3 minutes. Sometimes you have less than 1 minute. Sometimes you have up to 6 minutes. Usually it's not any more than that. Okay. Don't overload the page with data. Okay. So as we talked about, don't have your page look like this for a bunch of reasons. Number one being because you don't want people to stop focusing on you and starting to read your slides. Okay. When you do this, they stop tuning into you. They start reading their own things. And all of a sudden, what you don't want to happen is this, because you want to control the information. If your slides are taking away from that, you're no longer controlling the information. People are going to start making their own assumptions. They don't need you anymore. Okay. So make sure the slides don't distract from you. Provide guideposts and an overall message. This is one of the most important things as far as storytelling or any kind of pitch is that, look, make sure as you're taking us through, at the end, everything makes sense. There shouldn't be a surprise at the end, right? Because you've taken us logically through the steps. Everything should align. Everything should take us to that last message. And it should be very clear and concise. Connect with us emotionally. So here's the piece that I was kind of talking about. You know, let's go back to Katrina. You know, when you start with the problem, start small, start at a local level with a use case. So in this scenario, I can talk about this young lady here. She was one of the victims that lost all her house and things like that. As you can see, that's a football stadium behind her. So she and her baby lived in that football stadium for 3 weeks. Okay. They had basically one full meal a day. They usually got about 2-3 liters of fresh water. There was no showers. The restrooms were kind of sketchy, but you know, they got access to it about once or twice a day. But plumbing, there was no flushing, the plumbing wasn't working. It was all being recycled, you know, manually. And when she went to bed, she would have an air mattress on the floor of the stadium where she would lay down and her baby would lay down on her chest. Okay. Now, she was one of 750,000 people that went through this. Okay. So now you see the impact. I could have started the other way. Hey, 250,000 people impacted, sleeping on the ground. That's kind of hard for us to wrap our mind around. Always start with a use case, very specific. And how do you do that? Very easily. You're doing customer discovery. You're learning your customer, understanding specific use cases. Use one of those specific cases, and then allow us to understand how big the impact is. Make sure you're distilling and synthesizing the information for us, okay? When you're pitching, when you're presenting, this isn't a quiz. This isn't for us to sit there and say, I wonder what Fairzine means. Let me go ponder it. No, you should be chewing up all this information and making it easy for us, okay? Bring numbers to life. Numbers can be tricky. Numbers can be hard. Numbers, this is where you start losing people. This is one of my favorite ways how Elon actually helped us understand numbers, because you know the man is extremely smart, but here is something that I'll always remember. So he was talking about removing fossil fuels from the earth, right? So he was saying, hey, look, or from the US, right? He was saying, hey, look, in order to get rid of fossil fuels, the use of fossil fuels in the US, here's what we need to do. First, we need the big generator. Well, we got this big generator in the sky. It's called the sun. So, okay, all right. So then he said, well, what we need to do is have a bunch of solar panels, right? So he could have given us this measurement of solar panels and what that looks like and all that. So no, made it easy. Instead of even using actual numbers, this is what he did. He said, look, okay, so if this is the surface area of the United States, here is the area that's needed, total area for solar panels to use that big generator that's in the sky. So all of a sudden you're like, okay, I get it. So that red square is a total surface area of solar panels that we would need. Okay. Well, what else? Oh yeah, you need batteries. How much is the surface area of batteries that we need? That seems kind of intense. That's gonna be crazy. Well, I know it's kind of hard to see. See that little red dot in the middle of that square? That's the surface area of the batteries that you need. Okay. So there, he was able to describe in almost a non-numerical way, but the metrics that are really important, right? Of bringing the impact of removing fossil fuels in the US by having batteries and solar panels without using the words square footage or square meters. Okay. Use analogies. This is Ice Cube. If your audience is looking at you the way Ice Cube is looking at you here in this, they're not understanding what you're saying, all right? Simplify, use analogies, use simple language. Again, you're not here as a philosopher when you're pitching. You're here to translate what you've learned from a market and walk us through that experience. I know some of your slides are going to be complex because you're going to learn a lot, right? Remember, we were going over flow diagrams. Absolutely, you're going to have flow diagrams. There's going to be business, flow diagrams. There's going to be, you're going to have distribution charts, things like that. But it's not about, confusing us or just pointing out every single thing that's on the slide. No, when you put up a slide like this, the real key is one slide and one point, what's most important. So in this, for example, if you're sharing a slide, it's really about, hey, look, I would like, here's what we're sharing with you. Here's a flow diagram as it relates to third-party distributors. What's really important here is the regulatory approval cycle that we've discovered. And then you walk away. Now, you might say, but Farzine, look, there's a whole bunch of other stuff here that could be so interesting. Why wouldn't you share that? Here's a little pro tip for you to take away when it comes to pitching. Think of your pitch, because remember, you only get so much time. Maximum you're going to get is like 6 minutes. Okay. This is what we call a tease. Why is a tease important? Because a tease allows you to answer questions. Remember, you always get a Q&A time afterwards, right? So you get usually another 6 minutes to answer questions. By dropping a slide like this and only teasing a bit of information, pretty good chance is now someone's going to ask you a follow-up on this slide. Why is that good? Because now you actually know what one of the questions is, right? Think about it. If you want to make yourself successful, one of the best ways is to actually know what the questions are, right? Well, here's what you've done. You've set up yourself with upcoming questions on things, okay? So that's just an old trick of, instead of you having to worry about, oh my God, what if they ask a question I don't know? Well, you know what? Tease them a bunch of questions that they're going to ask you that you already know the answers to. And here's a good way of doing it. Use common ground. Use things like your business model canvas, right? I mean, that's what you've been introduced to. It is an absolute tool that's used by early stage startups, and I don't know any kind of investment groups that don't use it or don't understand it. So business modeling is extremely common. Use those kind of language. Use intellectual honesty. And by that, we mean this. So in this scenario, we'd asked a startup to actually mark the boxes of the canvas on a color based on their comfort level with the data that they had. So we said, mark it green if you had enough data that you were 100% confident in it. Yellow meant you've got some information, you feel somewhat comfortable, but you need more information. And red was, I am not comfortable with this information yet. So most people are afraid to do something like this, where they actually share the actual data. This is actually the most smart thing you can do, okay? Trust me when I say the people in the room that you're presenting to, they know ecosystems really well, and they can catch when you're telling them lies. So don't. It's all about trust. It's all about people relationship. I can't overstate that. When we started that at the beginning, saying it's all about people. When you pitch, if you lie, if you misrepresent what you know, you have now broken that trust, and no one will want to work with you. Okay, so it's more important for you to say, hey, look, I don't know. For example, if I'm looking at this, hey, I'm really not strong when it comes to strategic partners. I don't know that space really well, and I need some help. Blah blah blah. In fact, if I was sitting there listening to you, that would make me appreciate you, and I would actually try to find you some resources that would help you learn about your strategic partnership, or your distribution costs, or your sales and marketing. Okay. Use pictures. Okay. Look, you're going to be doing some interviews. Take some Zoom screenshots. Show what you've done. Be interactive. Last couple of things to avoid. Please, please, please. I know we talked about storytelling, but don't be melodramatic, right? I mean, look, we know, it's not a fictive story. This is a real story. These are your experiences. Okay. 2, don't speak like this and be monotone and not be excited about it. Because if you're not excited about what you're talking about, no one's going to be excited about it. Okay. Be enthusiastic. Be proud of what you're doing. Don't be scared. All right. Last but not least, look, we know you're smart. We know you probably have a very, very cool, ingenious idea. But this isn't about you being a talking head and you lecturing us and making us, or trying to convince us about something of how smart you are. No. This is about connecting, remember, with the audience. This is about us learning from you, but in a way that's very collaborative, and it speaks in our language. Last but not least, you have to rehearse. You have to practice. You have to practice. Did I mention you have to practice? If there has been times, and I am not exaggerating when I say this, that it's been 3 o'clock in the morning where I've had a pitch or a presentation the next day, and I was in a different town, where the hotel lobby has called me up and said, Farzin, your neighbor is wondering why there's someone in your bathroom that's been talking to themselves for the last 3.5 hours. Okay. Because you're going to stand in front of that mirror and you're going to present to yourself over and over and over again. If your family, if your dog, if your girlfriend, if your boyfriend, if your brother, your sister is not tired of your presentation, you haven't practiced enough. Okay. And last but not least, have fun, folks. Enjoy it. All right. Again, if you don't like what you're doing, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, don't do it. Go do something else, because it'll show and it'll impact everything. Right. So enjoy it. And the only way to get to enjoy it is by practicing, because you're going to be nervous. You're going to be a train wreck for the first bunch of times you do this. Okay. So let's get down to the pitch itself, and what are some of the making sure the content and what's important is included, and how that relates to everything that you're gonna, that you've learned so far in the past 5 days, and you're gonna continue learning as you go through the process. So typical pitch content. Okay. By the way, these aren't the number of slides. These aren't, this just says here's the content that needs to be in there. Okay. But the first, start with, what is the purpose of your business? have your business slide, whatever it is that's up there, your logo or whatever. So, but you go right into the problem. Describe the customer's pain and how he addresses the issue today. Remember, that's the enemy. That's the status quo. That is what you're trying to defeat today. Okay. Then we talked about, hey, don't make us wonder or try to figure out how you're going to solve it. No. Solution right away. Demonstrate the value proposition of your customer's better life. Take us right to the punchline. Okay? Because it's important. Because then, all right, here's the problem. Here's the solution. Great. Now you can tell me how you're going to do that and how we're going to make money. Because without that, the rest is irrelevant. Okay? We talked about why now, right? What is the evolution of the category, the recent trends? Why do you think this is a good time? Why do you think that you're not going to be in the next Google Glass? Right? Hey, really cool tech, but just wasn't the right time. Will it happen? Absolutely. Are we going to have probably chips inside our eyeballs that in the next 20 years? Yeah, but it just wasn't the right time. Think about it. Think about GPS, right? You know how old that technology is? 1950s. It's now that we have, I literally, as I look around, there's 1, 2, 3 GPSs sitting right around me, right? But 50 years ago, it was only used by the military. It just wasn't the right time, right? As a consumer item. So why is this the right time? Market size. We talked about that yesterday, right? Talk about how big is the market. And we don't mean the entire market. We mean your target market for your very specific beachhead market, right? That initial market you're trying to tackle. Remember that pin that you're using to pop that balloon. What does that market look like? And how big is it? What is the opportunity there? Show us your TAM, your SAM, and your target market. Your competition. What does the world look like today? Who's out there? What are they doing? Right? I know this was your favorite part. You're like, why did it take so long? Yes, you get to talk about your product. Tell us what it is. What is it that you're doing? Are you a software? Are you a service? Are you, show us some bits and whistles. What stage of development are you with this thing? Is it still an ideation? Do you have an MVP? Have you tested it? Your business model. How will you make money? This is an important one. And this is, folks, you might say, well, look, I'm a nonprofit, or this is social entrepreneurship. Doesn't matter. We're not saying that you need to go become a commercial entity where you do that. Bottom line is, as a business entity, even if you're a nonprofit, even if you're working with an NGO, you want to show sustainability. Okay. Even as working as a social entrepreneur, you need to be able to hold yourself up as a business. So we're not saying that your revenue model, your business model, should always show profitability, but it should show how do you make enough money to invest back into your company so you can sustain yourself. Okay. So no matter what type your business entity is, you need to have a business model. Your business model can't be, we're just going to wait for NGOs to keep giving us money. Well, at some point, the NGOs are going to say, Verzine, your company isn't adding any value anymore. We can't sustain you. We're going to run out of money. Okay. The best thing you can ever do for an NGO, for any kind of, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, any kind of foundation, we all need them at the beginning, whether you're for profit or nonprofit. We need investors. We need people. The best thing you can do is sustain yourself so that the next startup then can go enjoy the benefits, so that the NGO, Bill and Melinda Gates, all these foundations can stop worrying about you after year 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, and then they can start giving money to someone else. Okay. Share with us who your team is, right? Who are the founders? What are the most important skill sets they bring? If you've got advisory board, if you've got a board of directors, you can certainly share who those are as well. And depending on how much time you have as well. Last but not least, this is the ask. right? This is the roadmap. Hey, first of all, your roadmap, this isn't your next 6-year roadmap. Don't, please. You're lucky if you know what you're doing 6 weeks from now as a startup. You don't know what you're doing 6 months, 6 years from now. So 3 to 6 month max roadmap. What are the key metrics that you have? If you have a cap table, cash flow, and what is the ask? What is it that you need for that 3 to 6 month roadmap to be successful? Is it resources? Is it a connection? Is it insight into whatever it is? Okay. So remember where we started? We said, okay, there's 3 components of it: understand, care, and then the ask, right? Well, if you look at through this, the top is the understand and the care, right? The purpose, problem, and the solution. And then at the end, the roadmap is your ask. Okay. The other stuff in the middle is just supports everything else. So your business model, the storyline, the fact that you have gotten us attached to this big problem you're solving for a very specific group of folks that have a big problem is what's going to get us going and walking us through it. All right. Questions? Hop on in. Don't be shy.
Can I?
Yes.
Well, during pitching, I think we will do it online for February and March. So should one person present or 5 of us?
Great question. Great question. So it's a couple things. Part of it depends on the instructions that you're going to get of who pitches. Because sometimes depending on the organization and things like that. Let me step back. If you're truly pitching and presenting, when it comes to any presentation that's 6 minutes or less, which is almost all the time, my suggestion is never have more than 2 presenters. Usually try to do 1, 2 maximum. And if you do 2, you should start with one person, have them go, halfway through or whatever, and then the other person takes over. Don't go back and forth.
Okay.
Okay. The reason for that is because we get used to a pace, a rhythm, if you will, right? Yeah. And so what you don't want to happen is you're in a rhythm and then someone changes it and then it changes it. Think about, in news, when you watch the news, there's a reason that they just don't go back and forth. No, that one person talks about a topic, finishes that topic, then the next topic is the next anchor takes over. Then she finishes that topic, blah, 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 and then it comes back to the other person, right? And so that's why it's just for us humans, and this is in person or online. I highly recommend one person, 2.
But yeah. For question and A, like the part of question and A, anyone can answer.
Oh. Yes, absolutely. In fact, that is when you can highlight and show off some of your teammates. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, thank you, Farzin. I do have one question about when we say why now. So I'm quite confused. How can we answer this question? So I can't find any sort of element to answer this. And how can I address this point in my pitch?
Yeah, it usually comes through identifying that the problem is such a big issue, right? Why was the iTunes store successful at the time it became successful? Because of the fact that broadband had become a commodity. If it had been 2 years before that, where everyone was still using dial-up modems and it was still slow internet connections, no one would have cared. They were like, no, I can't download this. It takes me 6 hours to download one song. I don't have time for this. This is useless. So that's an option, right? It could be technology thing. It could be a social thing. So for example, if you're in social entrepreneurship and let's say you're working on some kind of clean water effort, look, sometimes the government of a certain area. I was working with a startup that was looking at helping bring clean water to, I forgot where it was. It was somewhere in South America. But basically what they got down to is that it wasn't a technology problem or a science problem. In fact, other organizations had tried to take clean water there. It wasn't going to happen because the government was not going to allow it. The government enjoyed having a weak population and under their control. How do you keep your citizens under control? Keep them unhealthy. Unfortunately, as sad as that sounds, that's part of the world we live in, right? And so that was a situation where it wasn't going to work out, no matter what they wanted to do. It was a free solution to this country, and the country wasn't going to let it happen. Okay, so that's what we mean by why now. It could be what's the dynamic of the world today of your customer segment today that will allow this to happen. What are the things that have lined up? Is it technology? Is it socioeconomic? Is it such a big, huge need? What is it?
Okay, perfect. For example, in our case, it might be a regulatory issue. For example, we will be active in open banking framework, and here in Morocco, it's not really improved. So we don't even talk about this in the central bank. So here our idea is to go and to go to see the central bank and say, hey, we have this idea we need to be active in this area. We need to start somewhere. That's the idea.
Right. You need to find out exactly. Regulatory is such a big, yes, the why now, for some of you, the why now is absolutely going to be, if the regulatory has shifted to your favor, right? To your point, if all of a sudden it was the team that's making the car with the solar panels, for example, right? I kept asking a couple of days ago, well, who is responsible for reducing emissions, right? Is there someone whose job it is? So to your point, is there for in that group, if the regulatory group, if there's a group in the ministry that says, hey, we are now responsible and we're going to make sure that the car companies do X, Y, and Z. If they will, if you're going to bring a Toyota, it needs to have X, Y, and Z into Morocco, right? And so that's a huge why now. Because that's a big regulatory push. So start looking for that. Absolutely. Look. There's going to be so much for you to discover. Anything else? All right.
What about the story? It is in the beginning or in the end or in the middle?
Well, your story is throughout, right? I mean, everything should bring everything together, but it starts with the story. It starts with you sharing, what that status quo is, right? What is happening today. And by story, we mean literally this. It's just like, so Ahmed, pretend you and I, for example, we go on holiday, right? And we go to Greece for 2 weeks, right? When we come back and we're going to tell our friends about it, think about how you do storytelling to your friends, right? And your presentation should be the same way. You're going to pick the most important things about the trip to Greece on holiday that we did. And it's not going to be all about just the airplane, the flight, the taxi rides. No, it's going to be it's going to be, what was the most important thing that we ate, right? What was the funniest joke that we heard? What was the, if we went to a football game, what was the most amazing game that we went to? If we went to the beach, what was the best beach? So it's going to be the 4 or 5 most important things to highlight, Okay. So that's the big piece of that. The storyline is really important because it helps you identify the 4 or 5 most important things that you can say. Okay. Because you can't say everything. You're going to learn so much through customer discovery, and you're going to continue learning so much. It's impossible.
What I understand, Mr. Farzin, what I understand from saying story, it's like, I don't know, the hook, like something you make the problem, make a story for the problem. That was what I understand from you, to make the story.
No, I mean, you don't make, well, you tell a story, but you tell a story, your hook, if you will. I'm not a big fan of that word, but the hook is your enemy. That's why we talked about that number one thing. What's the first thing that you need to talk about? What is happening today?
Yeah.
It's your problem statement. It's the first thing we talked about when we met each other earlier this week, right? Or on the weekend, which is, what's the problem? Who is it? And who's impacted by that?
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Sir Farzin?
Yes.
Yes, I have a question about like team complementarity. How do we show it in the pitch, and is it a necessary part or no?
Say that one more time, please.
My question is about team complementarity. How do we show it in a pitch?
Your team itself?
Yes.
Yeah, there should be a slide on your team because it's and I think it was one of the ones on the template. It's near the end because we kind of brought this up again, I think, a couple of days ago as well. Look, a startup is not a one-person game. You can't have a startup of one. You need a team. You need a support system. So it's really important to highlight, who are your co-founders and most important people on your team. What's that one unique skill set that they bring to the team that literally, if they left tomorrow, then all of a sudden, you wouldn't have this anymore, right? And so highlight that very quickly. All right. Lena, David, anything else?
I think that's really good advice you're giving, Farzin. And I think the thing here is when you first try it, it's stressful. It's a little difficult. As you keep practicing and practicing, it gets easier. Remember, I said most people try things 3 times and give up, but it takes about 18 times to start to get comfortable with it. That's what you guys have to do. And it's a great opportunity in this program to practice. Use us to help critique you guys, offer you feedback and advice. But thank you very much, Farzin.
Sure, my pleasure.
Great. Thank you very much, Farzin. I don't know if someone else has a question. No, I cannot see any hands. So maybe you are already at the end of our bootcamp. Thank you, everyone. So we made it. I think it was a great journey for everyone. We learned a lot. But there is just something before leaving you I would like to share with you. Let me take something. So first, of course, so we had a lot of learnings through these 5 days. And I would like just to prepare the next steps, because now it's just actually the beginning of the program. You will work now by teams and you will prepare all what you have learned. So as you can see, what we ask you now, really the must do. The deadline is really today, 9 p.m. if possible for the teams who haven't finished that yet. I know that you have hired a lot of talent, so please confirm your matches through the forms we have sent you. It's like the contract between you and the solo talent, but also the confirmation from the solo talent that they have joined your team is really important. So I would like to ask all the team to send us this document, these forms. And the second thing, I know that most of you already signed the legal document, but please, for the other ones, send it. The deadline is today, 9 p.m. Send it to morocco@openstartup.org. This is really important to confirm the final list who will, how can I say, join us for the rest of the 4 coming weeks and for the rest of the programs, of course. Then I know that we have shared with you a lot of homework assignments. We are trying just to gather everything in a tool that will help you to communicate easily, but also to have access only to your team. So bear with us. We will share all of that soon, very soon. But you know already the exercise about the customer, the question that you have to do. So keep that in mind. Start already preparing all these exercises, because we will ask you to deliver this assignment very, very soon throughout the 4 coming weeks. So what I would suggest, I think that David and Farzine will recommend the same thing. Please create groups between you, create this, how can I say, community per team, meet each other, discuss, and even review what have been discussed and exchanged these 5 last days, and discuss also together the homework and the questions we worked all together during the rooms and the workshops. So I think that this could be the must do you can do for the next days. And very, very soon we will start the next step of the program, which is really exciting one. This will be assigning 2 coaches who will support with these coming weeks. And we will inform you very, very soon. So these coaches actually will collaborate with you through the next milestones. We will give you, actually, we will ask you to join an info session, coaches and team startups in this week. We are, how can I say, scheduling the date, set up in the date. It must be maybe Wednesday, but we will confirm very soon. We will send you an invite to meet your coaches, but also to understand how will the process will be set up for the next weeks. So bear with us. We will take all this, how can I say, great informations that we all learned actually these 5 days. And for that, I would like just to thank all the OST team. I would like to thank all OST Morocco team. So Huda, Zach, David, Tariq, Umayma, Zainab, Harit, Hanan, thank you very much. And of course, our valuable team from Colombia, Ivy, Dario, Farzine, thank you for all the time. Thank you for the quality of the learnings we shared these 5 days. I hope that all the teams and all the participants enjoyed this bootcamp. And we are really happy to see you very, very soon for the next steps. And we have a lot to share again. Lena, good luck, everyone.
Lena.
Yeah.
Hey, Lena, group picture. How about a group picture?
Yes, definitely. Let's do that.
That's a good idea. That wasn't my idea.
Umayma, can you manage that? Let me stop the sharing.
Yes.
And maybe you can switch on the camera and the big smile now, because we are really happy. OST, yes, OST Morocco.
Okay, Umayma's going to be snapping back, and that's right. Wave hands.
Yeah, I'll take a lot of pictures. Don't worry, guys.
It's okay. She can always Photoshop too. I want the hair, please. I want Ahmed's hair.
No, you look awesome.
You need to tell me who's your hairdresser, David.
I think it's called Bronze Shaver.
Okay, great.
Thank you to the OST team. Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you. We shall be back in touch very, very soon. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Ciao, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Have a nice week.
See you
Thank you,
soon.
guys.
Bye-bye.
See you
Goodbye,
soon,
everyone.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And goodbye.
Oh, somebody's finger's stuck.
It might happen sometimes.